Today we have with us Mr. Srikrishna. He's the CEO of HEXAWARE Technologies. Mr. Srikrishna, thank you so much for joining us on this special day for HEXAWARE Technologies.
Aayush.
All right, Mr. Srikrishna, I'd like to start by asking you, your revenues in calendar year 2016 grew 13% in rupee terms. You've guided for double-digit growth in 2017. With 2.1% growth this quarter, how confident are you to really achieve double digits, and what factors do you really expect to drive that growth?
So, first is that a lot of the guidance we gave was in dollar terms.
Right.
So, last year our revenue growth in dollar terms was a little lower than the 13, was more like 9. So, we got a 10 to 12% revenue growth in dollar terms this year. The fact is, given where we are today, to grow 10%, we don't need to do any more growth.
Okay.
So, if you're flat, if you have 0% CQGR for the remaining 3 quarters, we will hit our 10% growth.
Right.
To hit a 12% at the upper end, we need to do 1% growth from here. So I would say we are in pretty good shape.
All right.
It's actually even better for EBITDA. So if you're flat from here, our EBITDA this year will grow in dollar terms 14% over last year EBITDA.
All right. And also, Mr. Srikrishna, considering we've seen the rupee appreciate substantially to the dollar, especially over the last couple of months, can we expect some pressure on revenues there? Because, in terms of HEXAWARE, how are your hedges placed really?
Yeah. So it will impact our margins, right? So even this quarter, as well as we did, it was muted a little bit because of about 30 bips we lost due to rupee appreciation. This quarter is not even the full impact, so from next quarter it will be a little bit higher.
Right.
So yes, there will be a little bit of an impact due to rupee, but we still kind of feel that within the range of our guidance will be okay.
All right. Also, so in terms of the deal pipeline, last quarter you guys signed 2 big clients. This quarter it's been relatively lesser in terms of numbers. Can we expect that to pick up perhaps in terms of the deal pipeline?
It will. So the pipeline is strong. So in terms of signings, this quarter we had 2,
right,
but the values were smaller.
Much smaller, yeah.
But that's
25 and 50.
Correct. So we're down from about 55 to 25.
Right.
But this is only signings from new clients, and that always tends to be lumpy. It always tends to be spiky. We think the good way of measuring it is just full year versus full year versus full year.
Okay.
So 2015 was 120.
Right.
2016 was 155, and I think the way we like to measure it is what does 2017 look like, and it has to be then higher than 155.
Right.
But within quarters there can and will be material differences.
Also, Mr. Srikrishna, with the way things are panning out around the world, so we've seen talk of the change in H-1B visa norms in the US. Immigration all over the world has become a very hot topic now, be it Europe, with Brexit, now perhaps with ongoing presidential elections in France, perhaps Brexit as well, depending on the results. This sort of uncertainty and this sort of sense of protectionism that we're seeing, how do we see this impacting businesses like yours when it comes especially to visa norms and the wages being, the minimum wage being thought of being raised as well? Does this have an impact on margins for a company like yours?
I mean, so there's like what happens in the short term, what should we think, how should we be thinking about it long term?
Yes.
Okay. So the long term, notwithstanding what laws get passed or do not pass,
right,
what is inside those laws that get passed, we have to reduce our dependence on H1 labor for servicing our clients. So that's a direction that we've decided on no matter what happens in the environment. Even last year, in a percentage terms, the percentage of people that went on H1 reduced compared to what it was the year before. And we'll continue that journey.
This is it in terms of your company?
For HEXAWARE.
HEXAWARE,
right? Now, from a more short-term perspective, right? So the most recent law, and I think that's a misnomer because it's not.
Absolutely.
It's an executive order, and it takes, the executive order in itself has no impact on anything, right? So it asks for a policy to be done, and after that policy there'll be a law, or there could be a law which may or may not get passed.
Absolutely.
So any impact as a result of that EO is a while away.
Right.
So last quarter we said we don't see any changes impacting our business, our margins, or cost till 2019. And I would absolutely double down on that and say there's nothing that we're seeing that will have any impact on our business till 2019. It's very simple because April 1st we applied for whatever number of visas.
Right.
Those get allocated, they're getting allocated as we talk.
Right.
And once they get allocated, that's our supply chain for 2018.
Right.
Our supply chain for 2017 is from the people that got allocated last year.
Fair enough.
So we're not going to see an impact till a while, right? And that 1.5, 2 years that we have gives us enough opportunity to adjust our supply chain. And the adjustment of supply chain is really to reduce dependence on H1, invest more in hiring and training locally.
So how would you really achieve that? Reduce dependence on H1. Is that a complete change in strategy? Is that something that you're being compelled to do because of this change in these norms?
Well, like I said, it's not, right? So we've decided in the long term we want to do that. We just want to be a more global, more local in each location that we are present in. It's not a complete change in strategy. So if you look at our US, our labor is concentrated around 2 geographies,
Right.
The Atlanta metro area and the Washington metro area.
Fair enough.
There are others too. There's some around New York, some around Boston, Chicago.
Right.
But these are the 2 major pockets. We have a delivery center in Atlanta, we have
Right.
a delivery center in Washington. In these, it becomes easier if it's that concentrated because you can go out and adopt and work with educational institutions in those locations. For
Absolutely.
example, Atlanta has lots of great engineering schools.
Absolutely.
Georgia Tech is not only good, but it's large. It produces a large number of students each year. So that's the journey that we are on.
Yeah, but it's very interesting. So in terms of the revenues that you get from the Americas, what percentage of that is really from the United States for HEXAWARE?
Almost all.
Almost all.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Mr. Srikrishna, also, there's been a slowdown in client spending in America. There's a report by Gartner which suggests that that's going to even go down further in 2017. What has your feedback been from your clients out there? And also, have you sensed this marked change in sentiment?
Between 17 and 16 and 17?
Right.
No.
Okay.
So we don't think there's a marked change, knee-jerk change, either positive or negative.
Right.
That's what we've been saying. There are some sectoral changes,
Right.
but just in aggregate, I don't think so.
Right.
There were more sectoral anticipated changes directly after the new administration came in.
Yes.
But most of that is off now, I would say.
Right.
So I wouldn't say there is a significant change between 16 and 17.
Because you guys set up a new office even in Pune in January.
Correct.
So this is to deal with more demand globally, or this is in line with your strategy that you mentioned earlier?
Yeah, it is to service more demand globally.
Right.
It's a natural part of our expansion. We already had a rental facility in Pune, but we just moved to a much larger, nicer campus there.
Right. And also, as a quick last question, what is your outlook on the BFSI and the manufacturing verticals, really?
Okay. So completely different.
Right. But considering they're 2 major chunks of your business.
For us, right. So our business is BFS. I is a separate vertical as part of healthcare. So our BFS business we're very bullish about.
Fair enough.
Okay. If you look at last 8-10 quarters, it's been in aggregate our best performing business.
Absolutely.
There are pockets of revenues in our BFS business that is not what you would see typically in the industry. For example, we don't have a big presence in the core banking area.
Right.
So that's a small but rapidly growing presence.
Right.
Instead, our big chunks of revenue come from capital markets.
Right.
The second biggest chunk comes from mortgage space.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have some from leasing, and then we have banking. So those are the 4 major chunks of business for us. The capital markets is fairly stable. They take risks in their business.
Mm-hmm.
And the way they balance that is not to take risks in how they run the business.
Right.
And so they're fairly stable in how they spend on technology, who they spend it with.
Right.
Mortgage, just the long-term trend has been very positive. Since 2009, the amount of mortgages in the US has gone up continuously. I think March was by the way, a record month in
Right.
terms of home sales in the US. So,
Okay.
so we feel good about that business as well.
Super. Thank you so much for joining us on BloombergQuint.
Thank you.
Thank you.